Welcome back to The Edge. Hey, all the marketing in the world won't do you any good unless you focus on the destination. Are you actively fixing your funnels? We've got Talia Wolff on with us today to give a crash course in conversion to get 10 times the return today on The Edge.
Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. You're listening and watching Edge of the Web. Winners of Best Podcast from the Content Marketing Institute for 2017. Hear and see more at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
All right, hey, this is episode 335 of Edge of the Web. 336. It is 336. Jacob corrected me. 336. On Edge of the Web, I'm your host, Aaron Sparks. Thanks for joining us every week. We are interviewing key influencers in marketing, digital marketing explicitly, all around the world. And we unpack key concepts in digital marketing so we can slow down and talk about it a little bit and understand everything that's happening in that topic with this fast pace moving world that we have in digital marketing. Be sure to check out all the recent videos and shows over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. We're unpacking everything over there as well. The audio is over there. The transcripts are over there. Interviews and show notes are over there as well. So edgeofthewebradio.com. If you're new to the show, welcome. We certainly appreciate you joining us. We do well, let's unpack and show you around the course of events for this show is that every Monday we're going live on YouTube with our show, and that is a live stream where you can join us and be able to ask questions of our guests real time. We then take our show over to Edge of the Web, where we actually are broadcasting our audio files into iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Spotify, and a slew of others. And if we're not where you are listening to your podcast, let us know. We'll certainly get our RSS feed over there. Along with that, we're also broadcasting out a good deal of content regarding the transcripts of the show, show notes, and what have you over at edgeofthewebradio.com. So if you miss something, if we go too fast, or if you want to find out a little bit more about what we talked about, go over to the show's site, and you'll have it all there. It's a cornucopia of the show notes and information. All right. So Edge of the Web is actually brought to you by Site Strategics, our title sponsor of the show, the pioneers in the agile digital marketing focus. Their core specialties are SEO, technical SEO, SEM, social media marketing, conversion rate optimization, which we're about to talk about today, as well as omni-channel. So we're focused on agile marketing, which is basically results-based digital marketing that you steer by as opposed to set it and forget it content and marketing, which you shouldn't be doing at any point in time. So if you want to have a second opinion on how you're doing in your digital marketing space, we'll provide you a free consultation, free of charge, an hour consultation, or we'll talk to you around the world if you are there. If you want to give us a call at 877-SEO for Web or 877-736-4932. You can give us a shout right there, or just find us online. You can look us up at, I think, Agile Digital Marketing and Agile Search Engine Optimization. We got a few of those key terms around there. So go jump over there and then give us a shout. We'll be happy to talk to you about your digital marketing success. Okay, I'm going to swing around, and if we got the camera open, there's Jacob. Say hi, Jacob.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Good evening, depending on where you're watching us. How's it going?
It's going great. How about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad.
Huh?
Yeah.
Had a good weekend?
Yeah, we Friday, I got out of here as quick as I could because we had to go see Jurassic World live tour.
Oh my gosh.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
A lot of fun there. And then we left from that show and went to Santa Claus, Indiana for the weekend, and got in at midnight local time, which is also when we found out that the cabin we were staying in did not come with linens.
Oh.
And there's nothing open at midnight.
Didn't you have another problem with Holiday World down there a while back?
Yeah. So
okay.
That's okay. That's
a great place. That's a great
Their
park.
website says no linens.
Oh.
Bring your own linens. We didn't see that. So that's okay. We cranked up the heat, told the kids it's sleep in your coats tonight, and we went to a Dollar General in the morning and bought blankets, and they had pillows. I think a lack of pillows would have been probably the worst part.
Absolutely.
But they had pillows, so
you go all over the place, man.
Yeah, we really do.
So what's Christmas like in the man's man household there?
Well, we have an upside down Christmas tree. which we don't have yet this year, but we get that every year.
Yep.
So that's a tradition from my father-in-law. So it's decorated. There's presents on the ceiling.
Stapled to the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually has a train that can run around his tree.
No way.
On the ceiling. That's and apparently a strongly modified engine because it's magnets and it's not easy to move a train that's magnetized to the ceiling. But
There's a bit of a friction issue
we'll
there.
get there one day. But yeah, so we're normally at home for that, and yeah,
very cool. Very
kids will
cool.
wake up at 6:30, I'm sure.
Well, we do want to wish all the best to all of our listeners in this holiday season. And hey, let us know if you want us to jump in and talk a little bit about your holidays. Give us a shout back over on social, as well as we want to know how digital marketers celebrate their this season of merriment. We really do. So give us your weirdest within reason, your weirdest digital marketing season greetings and
I was
celebrations.
going to say, I'm not checking those emails.
All right, some quick edge notes of upcoming guests. We've got Robert Rose coming on here on December 16th, as well as Kim Scott. She's returning to the show, I think, on the 23rd. We're also getting ready for the 2020 lineup of shows. So if you're interested in being part of our digital marketing show or would like to have us interview someone that you would like to kind of unpack and learn a little bit more about what they do, just let us know. Give us a shout over at info@edgeofthewebradio.com and let us know who you would like us to speak to next. And make sure that you set reminders up on YouTube to get notified when we're live with those shows. All right, so that's the show housekeeping. Let's get to the marketing news of the week.
Hey, you want to hear some great news?
This week's trending topics.
All right. So we want to introduce our guest for the show who has been patiently waiting as we needlessly banter at the beginning of the show. Talia Wolff, she is a return guest. Talia, how are you doing tonight? There we go. Hi. So you're across the pond right now, are you not?
I am
So
far across the pond.
You're
We don't
far-
celebrate Christmas over here.
so where are you right now?
I am outside Tel Aviv in Israel.
That's right. That's right. So what's your season like right now for Hanukkah season and all the things that you go through?
Hanukkah's a letdown. It's just not like Christmas. I was trying to get my husband to go visit all my family in London just so I could be there for Christmas. But it just didn't work out for him, with his job and stuff. And I was like, have to go next year. But there's just no real Christmas here so.
No, obviously so, yeah. But and the letdown you're talking about, those Hanukkah gifts. I mean, you got 12, right? No. Oh, sorry. That's those are 12 days of Christmas. How many presents do you have for Hanukkah? My God, I'm showing my social ineptitude here.
Don't worry, I'm going to do the exact same right now. I think we have 9 days. Wait, 8 days. 8 days. 8 days. It's 8 days that the oil was something. It kept. Oh, everyone's going to hate me now. The oil.
We'll fix it in post.
So just think about it like as if your iPhone was down to like 3% on your battery,
right?
And then it suddenly lasted for like a week. That's Hanukkah, just with oil.
Okay, we do not condone.
I like that a lot.
Huh?
I like that modern twist.
It is a modern twist, but we don't condone putting your iPhone in oil. Just stay away from that.
Ooh.
So, all right. So Talia is the founder of Get Uplift, and you were with us 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago to the month. So you've been busy. What you been doing?
What have I been doing? Having kids.
So evidently she has been busy.
I have them. What have I been doing? Well, I've been, doing conversion optimization consulting for companies, doing conversion optimization projects for different brands and businesses. Cool. And we also launched 2 online training programs. So it's been very busy and
Absolutely.
We're having the time of our lives. It's a ton of fun and I'm learning so much in the process. So it's cool.
Fantastic. Yeah, you've been speaking a heck of a lot, and we certainly want to dive into some of the things that you've been teaching here regularly. But, the show as well, we certainly welcome you back. Thanks for joining us. Each and every week, we're bringing digital marketing news, and we got a few teed up. Are you ready to take a swing at them?
I can try.
All righty. Well, let's go through some of the most recent digital marketing news. All right, so welcome to the Site Strategies Digital Marketing News Desk. This is the bonus news podcast and video for Edge of the Web Radio, episode 336. I'm your host, and joining me in studio, well, not in studio, with us is Talia Wolff of Get Uplift. So the first article that we wanted to bring up to you is from George Neugen over at Search Engine Land. Google Search Quality Guidelines Update emphasizes users of diverse backgrounds. Now, check this out. Now, you know that we've been talking on the show for a while about paying attention to Google Search Quality Raters guidelines. If you don't know what that is that Google has put out a number of guidelines for its human evaluators to be able to review the authority and expertise of websites, and those things are key factors that they're building their algorithm towards. So, if you're ever wanting to steer into the skid here, do what they're training their evaluators to review your site with. So the evaluators in this recent update, and this came through on December 5th, if I'm not mistaken, and the previous update was in September, is that they're actually focusing on changing a few uses of wordage, but they're also leading with a particular declaration of unbiased. Evaluators are reminded not to base ratings on personal viewpoints. Google Search Quality Evaluator guidelines actually were updated Thursday, and these revisions actually emphasize diversity, impartiality, and pertain to language referring to users. So George's article over at Search Engine Land isolates a few key factors there, for example, different types of searches and the like, but it is a step towards understand or limiting the users, the evaluators, to not rely on their own personal experience, but basically remove some of their cultural biases, or more importantly, defer if they don't know a particular cultural or ethnic connection. There is alert their employers who are actually part of the Google Quality Graders network that they cannot actually judge this in full impartiality. So anyway, we're always keeping abreast of Quality Raters guidelines. I teed this article up for you, Talia, because you talk about landing pages and emotional connection and personal connection whenever you're trying to convince people into a funnel. Google's asking its users, its evaluators, not to basically use their personal emotional biases. What do you see on that from a discrepancy standpoint? Because you're steering people directly the opposite direction.
Yeah, it sounds like they're just trying to cover the.
Yep, you better believe it. You better believe it.
Come on, we are navigated. I mean, we're steered by hundreds of cognitive biases. We're not even aware of the choices that we're making.
Amen.
All sorts of things everything we do, every step we take, every decision that we make is navigated by our experiences, our culture, our history, the things. I mean, there's just so much. And it's not like we're going in there and going, oh, I remember when that happened, so I'm going to have some kind of, it doesn't work that way. And we're not aware of our biases. Even, taking this a step further, even when we think we are aware of our biases, the first thing we do is rationalize it. So if you go in and buy something that's like super expensive, and you're going, oh, I'm only buying this because it's super expensive, or I know that I'm making a mistake, your brain will automatically, as a defense mechanism, rationalize that purchase. And will say, well, you've got 5 weddings coming up. You're going to be able to wear that t-shirt or that shirt wherever you go. So it sounds like they're just covering themselves because it's cool to be diverse now, and they're not doing the actual work that they should be doing, which is reviewing the content themselves, making sure that it's from diverse backgrounds, making sure that they're not, that they're pushing up content that should be up there that's diverse, and giving people a chance to read everything and not just the things that people are paying for, the things that, are ranking for ages.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I go so far as to add in there, the election here in the U.S. is coming up in the next year, and you certainly believe I would not put it past them that they're trying to make sure that they position themselves, especially when it comes down to political beliefs, that they're making sure that their human evaluators have been instructed, at least, not to skew data based on the politics of the day. So I don't know.
Yeah, but how are they enforcing that? I mean, this is just they're trying to avoid a Facebook situation where people are going to say that when, like, which they were, the timelines, the feeds, everything that we were seeing was navigated by political. I think the best way that the company that treated it the best way was Twitter, just saying, like, you can no longer advertise politics on Facebook, on Twitter, case done, whatever.
Right.
But for Zuckerberg and for Google, they're just trying to do the right thing. Let me correct that. They're trying to look like they're doing the right thing when they're not really doing anything about anything. And it drives me nuts. Seriously.
Tell us how you really feel.
If I had to guess how they're going to try to enforce it, if the guidelines are really that good, then multiple people should rate something the same way.
Right.
So if you randomly give the same piece to 5 different people and 4 get the same consensus and one's way off,
right,
then you start watching that one a little bit closer and maybe start testing against that. And if that person is showing a bias, then that's how I would assume they are doing it. But I don't know.
I'd say that if the guidelines were really clear, they'd have an AI doing it. And they wouldn't rely on people doing it. And the reason they're using people is because they want to keep the human side of it as part of their process. So on one hand, they're trying to humanize it, but on the other hand, they're trying to dehumanize it by removing all these biases that people have, which is impossible. So it's just a fluff piece, not of SCJ, of course, but like it's a fluff piece of saying, like, hey, we're doing the things we should be doing. Look, we're cool. And that's about it.
Yeah, it's a PR piece. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
They're changing a few words around, and they're throwing one of their excerpts there is 14.6.2 needs met rating for upsetting, offensive, tolerant queries. Remember that people of all ages, genders, races, religions, and political affiliations use search engines for a variety of needs. One especially important user need is exploring subjects that may be difficult to discuss in person. For example, some people may hesitate to ask what racial slurs mean. People may also want to understand why certain racial offensive statements are made. Giving users access to resources that help them understand racism, hatred, and other sensitive topics is beneficial to society.
Right, but how are they doing that?
And how are they judging?
Okay.
There's a big open-ended thing. I really do think you're right, Talia, that this was a bit more optics than it was to be measured in any way, shape, or form. All right, we'll just move on because that could be a rabbit hole in its own right.
Right, exactly. Sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. That's exactly why I want to tee it up for you. Over at Search Engine Journal from Matt Southern. Now check this out. Talk about landing pages. Well, this is one step away from landing pages. Again, Google is working on adding package tracking to search results. Google is working on integrated package tracking into search results, allowing users to get information without visiting the carrier's website. So also a silent cheer in the production booth there, but people will actually be able to enter a tracking number into the Google search bar and find out the status of their order. People frequently come to Google search looking for information on the status of their packages to make it easier. This is from Google themselves. We have created a new package tracking feature that enables shipping companies to show people the status of their packages right on search. So give us a screen grab again real quick, Jacob, is that there's a couple demonstrations there on how it's actually, so it's actually even showing the timeline of the element or the package in progress.
Outrageous.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so back to you, Talia. Give us your take on that.
I feel like you brought me on this show just
You go ahead and bash Google, please.
So first, I have to say that I am not a search expert. I'm far from it. I'd probably say that I'm like a beginner in search. So the right person to be asking here, or the right people to be asking here, Rand Fishkin or Michael King, like people that I love and admire, Will Reynolds. But the one thing that I see here that's repetitive is that on one hand, it looks like they're simplifying things for us as the users, which I feel like maybe that's the case. But for the brands that have spent years and years trying to rank, writing high quality content, putting everything into it, what they're doing now is that all those small little businesses are dying because they're not getting any traffic. You can essentially get everything that you need on search, meaning that you don't have to go into the websites. Traffic's going down, and they're not getting the hits, they're not getting the conversions, and they're favoring specific companies that are going to see that. So now you have to rank for that, or you have to pay. So what they're actually doing is just getting more people to spend money on paid search, because you're not going to be able to send anyone to an actual website where you see everything. I don't know. It just feels like Google is turning itself into its own landing page. I don't know. It feels weird, and it feels, I mean, like, of course they should be serving the people, and they should be serving, but you get half truths when you look into a snippet on Google. You don't get the whole story, and people might get incorrect information. So I don't know. I guess it depends on the execution itself, but it feels like it should be one way and it's going in a different. I don't know. What's your take?
I knew this was going to piss you off. That's why I gave it to you. No, you're absolutely right. Is that they're moving, they're getting in between our consumer more and more. It's getting pushed down below the fold, even to the degree that the knowledge panel, the feature snippets, the organic listing that was actually triggering that feature snippet is now getting removed from the organic index as well. So even on that note, right, is that what we did have going for us? They're playing chess with our information to the degree where they're removing us out of the equation. Google still expects us to feed great content, great schema, so it can actually be that organic landing page machine that keeps on crafting really good information for the consumers.
And it feels like for years they've been telling us to do, if you just do this right. Then your rank will send you traffic, it'll be great, like trust in Google. And what's actually happening is that we've spent a ton of time on our websites doing things, and in the end you're not going to be able to trust search because it's just not going to send you any traffic unless you are paying for it.
Well, arguably, the counter argument is that it's being more and more utilitarian for the consumers. So,
but again, it's half truth, because you need to go into the website and you need to actually get all the information and see what's going on there. Getting a snippet of something isn't enough, and especially in this day and age when people are reading half things because they keep getting pings and pongs and dings and dongs everywhere. I mean, it might, in some cases, not everything, some things are just simple. So they might, get the wrong recipe or, get on the wrong bus. But in other things, it could be really problematic. I don't know. I mean, it feels wrong. And
it feels like an overreach. You're absolutely right. And they're making the argument that it's for the consumer, our collective consumer. And if we as owners of web property can help serve our collective consumer better, then why not let Google funnel that information directly to them? I was making
because they want you to pay them.
Absolutely. I mean, I was making this argument with AMP. I was making this argument with a number of new features in the Google property, along with that lead form, not only the call to action, but the lead button, get a quote functionality that they're starting to throw into the Google My Business space. Boy, that's some scary stuff. If all of a sudden they're actually ginning up the quotes for your consumers and interacting as a go-between, that's some scary stuff. All right. You know what's not scary? I'll tell you what is another article from Search Engine Journal from Roger Monti. Google's actually encouraging you to differentiate your site. Now, I don't. This was my last point of segue for Talia today. A publisher tweeted a question to Google's John Mueller, who we're a big fan of, about commodity content. Commodity content is like affiliated content. If you're selling affiliated products, then you're going to have relatively the same content on your website. John Mueller's response, the publisher was coming from somebody who's in a government website, that they're pretty much exactly the same content in different spaces, and they were looking at how they can differentiate themselves. John Mueller's response gave the general direction of what to do when your site content is the same as the content of a competitor, but he also said something rather striking here. The article describes what commodity content is, but John said something. It doesn't matter what kind of site. Ultimately, you need to find a way to differentiate yourself, especially when it comes down to commodity content. What would make your site the objective best result by far for your preferred queries? Just being the same as others doesn't cut it. So he's really talking about how do you help your that customer that has a query, and how do you adjust your content to be able to match them, and not just stand out, but also how are you helping that consumer. So not only differentiation, but it is also a key factor of how you should guide your content, right, Talia?
Yeah, your value proposition. So essentially, this is where it all comes down to. If you're only different from your competitor by pricing or by a feature or two,
right,
then at some point your competitor can beat you, because your competitor can always drop their prices, and they can also always create another feature. What matters is the value that you provide. And that's your unique selling proposition, which means what problem are you solving for people that your competitor isn't? And it doesn't necessarily mean that your competitor isn't entirely, but it's how well do you know the pain of your customer,
right,
your prospect, what challenges they're facing, what they've tried, what they haven't, what they need to try, and how can you reflect that back to them? So if you can really articulate the pain that they are experiencing and show that to them on the page and say, hey, this may be the right solution for you, that's when people will choose you and differentiate you from your competitor. Because another feature, another price isn't going to do that.
Absolutely. So we're getting a peek into what we're going to be talking about on the show today, but I thought this would be a great kind of segue because whenever you're in the business of differentiation, that's exactly what you have to pay attention to when you're developing landing pages, and we're going to get into some key concepts when it gets down to understanding that customer journey. All right, so we certainly appreciate your input on the news items here. We also appreciate our continued sponsor of the show, Ahrefs. That's Ahrefs, a great tool for analyzing your competitive landscape and understanding how your competitors are getting traffic from Google and why. You can see the pages, the content that send them the most search traffic, and be able to deconstruct the exact keywords and then put together your own battle plan of how you're going to challenge them out of the marketplace. So check out Ahrefs tools today. There's some great ideas of great tools of Link Intercept and Content Explorer and Keyword Explorer that give you a really good snapshot of how to build a strong SEO campaign. Go over to ahrefs.com today and start a free trial today, and tell them that The Edge sent you as well. Hey, we love that data over here, and we swim in this great data each and every day over at Site Strategic. So let's move on to this week's featured guest on the show.
Now it's time for Edge of the Web featured interview with Talia Wolff, founder and chief optimizer at EDGEucated.
Talia is the chief optimizer. That's a hell of a title. That's a pretty cool title, I gotta say. Talia has been on our show before, back in January 2017. Certainly has been a while. We welcome her back to the show. For our listeners, we want to introduce her again. Talia is the founder of EDGEucated, the CRO consultancy and training space for top brands, where top brands actually turn to if they want to optimize their funnels and their websites and create experiences that customers love to convert, and using customer-centric methods like emotional targeting strategies and in-depth in-depth data. So we've actually wanted to swing her back around because, I mean, you can't get enough of conversion rate optimization and conversion optimization. We talk long about search engine optimization, but it's all about the destination. If you're not giving the users what they need when they need it, then you're going to be experiencing high bounce rates and low yield on your landing pages. So Talia, she's actually been on several stages, hundreds of stages, such as Google, MozCon, Call to Action Conference, SearchLove, and the like. So she's an incredible speaker, and we wanted to bring her back around. So Talia, thanks so much for joining us again.
Thank you so much for having me. That was an amazing intro.
You're more than welcome. Well, we certainly enjoyed our conversation last time you were on the show. In fact, I think we went into a Harry Potter space for about 20-25 minutes on the show last time.
Terrible.
Yeah, I know. So we're going to tee up Star Wars now. So you've been watching The Mandalorian, right?
I have.
And
as I said, I'm on episode 3, though. I haven't seen the last 2 yet.
Well, I tell you what, we won't spoil it for you, but what about Baby Yoda? I tell you what, there's so much about Baby Yoda out there, and it's not even Yoda, right?
And you know, the merch is already, you can pre-order it, and it's only coming out in May 2020, and you better believe it that I've pre-ordered it.
No, it's good stuff, and this is certainly they're rolling with a franchise. Do you already have your seats for the next Star Wars movie coming up?
Of course.
Of course. All right.
That's insulting.
You're absolutely right. That is. We just have to make sure that we get our foundational geek prepared here before we go any further. And we certainly enjoyed, like I said, we enjoyed our conversation last time. You've been in the speaker circles for a while here, continually talking about conversion rate optimization and continually connecting with marketers to understand the emotional journey. But first and foremost, tell us about your backstory and how you got to your role at Uplift and your journey into conversion optimization, if you would.
Sure. Well, when I guess I started marketing years ago, I worked in a social media company, and I was essentially helping run campaigns and all sorts of different, essentially kind of campaigns for my clients, just doing stuff on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and stuff like that. But I really did take a lot of interest into the results. So back then, what people cared about was, likes and engagement. But I kept asking my clients, like, hey, are you seeing any sales, any leads? What's going on? No one really had many answers. And also, even if they did have answers, there wasn't really a lot of data around what was happening, how things were happening, and what was going on. And what I wanted to do is essentially make that connection and also try and think about how I can optimize this journey for people. So essentially what was happening is that I started optimizing things without even knowing that that's what I was doing. So I was changing ads, and I was changing the landing page. I was kind of doing it on like a whim, like, oh, this looks like a good idea. Change things, read some articles, read some best practices. There was like 2 blogs back then about optimization. Everything was about driving traffic to your website.
Right.
But I felt like there's something bigger into just working on the asset that you already have. So if you have a website, if you have a landing page, how can you make it better for people that land on it? And as I read, I realized that there is a whole thing, like a whole entire industry that is just about optimization. Now, mind you, back then there were like 3 companies that did conversion optimization in the entire world. Now there's like 300. But back then it was just 3. I think it was Pep, it was Chris Goward, and Andre Morris from Germany. Fantastic guys. The more I read about them, the more I got to know the business. I was really interested in it, and I decided to open my own agency. At one point we were 15 people, so we were running conversion optimization projects and kind of services for companies for about 5 years. I built a methodology for optimization because, as I mentioned before, I started kind of guessing and I didn't really know what I was doing. So over the time, I kind of built my entire methodology, which you started talking about before. It's really based heavily on psychology, consumer psychology, persuasion, emotion, and data analysis. Sold the agency and started Get Uplift, which is more of a consultancy and training for conversion optimization. So we have all sorts of different trainings for people to learn how to find the emotions of their prospects and find your value proposition and how to actually optimize your websites and your funnels using emotion. And we also have a new boot camp, which is really cool, which is called, it's called Fix My Funnel Bootcamp. We literally just launched it a couple of days ago. It's going to be a live 9-day with me where you plan, create, and launch a funnel in 9 days. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. we're going to have links on that in the show notes. But when does that start again?
It's, we're open for enrollment right now. It starts January 6th and it runs till January 14th. So with live sessions and everything to kind of kick you off, into the right direction in 2020.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, what we've been circling around here, and we really appreciate that backstory, is what you're finding and the type of training that you're offering. You're helping marketers get to even understand their audience. And that's really, really key, because we're trained as marketers in a particular manner about landing pages from a rationalization standpoint, or we think that decisions come from that level of evidentiary type of comparison. That's not the case, is it?
No. So here's the thing. I mentioned before that I was playing the guessing game.
Right.
So when I started doing conversion optimization, I spent a lot of time thinking about how to optimize a page. So I'd change call to action buttons, I'd change headlines, I'd change images. And it was really kind of moving elements on the page and just changing different things and trying to figure out what was going to work.
Yep.
But the more I did it, the less I got the results that I wanted. And I realized that there's a missing piece. And I looked at conversion optimization as a whole, and I asked myself, okay, so what is the issue here? And the issue was that it was quite easy to find the problem. So knowing what needs to be fixed. Is it the landing page? Is it the pricing page? Is it the email sequence? Okay, figuring out that is great. But how do you figure out what needs fixing? As in, what changes can you make that will actually drive a result? And over the time, what I realized is that conversion optimization isn't about changing elements on the page. It's about solving people's problems. Yep. So if you can understand the real challenge that people are facing, your prospects every day, what's keeping them up at night, what's stopping them from achieving those goals that they want in anything, with B2B, B2C, anything. If you can understand that, if you can identify it, then you will be able to solve their problem. You'll know what problem to solve, and you'll know how to show it to them on the page. So once you identify those emotions, and it's always down to emotions, because emotions navigate all our decisions in life. Every decision we make in life is based on emotion. And this is not me just saying this. This is scientists who've been saying this for dozens and dozens of years, that without emotion, we cannot make decisions at all. So when you realize the emotions that are motivating your prospects, what is, motivating them, and it's never one emotion. It can be all sorts of different emotions together. But when you identify them, it's so much easier to choose the right copy, the right design, the right visuals, the right colors that you're using on the page. Everything becomes simpler because you know what feeling people need to get when they land on your page.
So it's almost like an emotional style guide from a parallel or a brand guideline, and marketers are wired for that. They understand what type of design, what type of on-brand, off-brand type of messaging they've constructed. But whenever you force them into understanding the emotions of their customers, right? There's a new discipline that we're just not prepared yet to actually engage in. Really passing by all the quick tweaks that you can do to the web. I mean, for the most part, conversion optimization has been in the realm of A/B testing and changing a button here, moving a couple pictures back and forth, trying to reduce the number of fields on a form. Those things are far less impactful than actually connecting to your consumer on that emotional wavelength. And there's got to be a discipline to be able to discover that, and that's what you help teach on a regular basis, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a race to machine learning and AI and automating everything. But the problem is that even if you have the best machines in the world, you still need someone to write that copy, and you still need that copy to resonate with people. You still need design that makes people feel something towards your brand, because at the end of the day, you only have 3 seconds to convince someone to give you a chance. People are tab jumping. That's kind of my favorite saying now. When you're looking for something at Google, you press, I have an Apple, so I have a Mac, so I'll press command and I'll open like a bunch of tabs, right? And I don't know if this is how you do it. This is how I search things, right?
Yep.
So you open a bunch of tabs and then you tab jump. You look at something for 2 seconds, nah, not gonna work.
Right.
3 seconds, not gonna work. And that's what you kind of do until something catches your eye and like, this is interesting, and you start reading. That moment where you say, oh, this is interesting, this isn't because, wow, this company has the best price, or wow, this company has these amazing features. It's because they've somehow made you feel like, oh, I think this company gets me. They understand me, and I should give them a chance, and I should read more. You only have those 3 seconds. If you haven't grabbed their attention by that, they're gone. They've tab jumped to your competitor. And that's why that emotion is so important, because people are navigated by their emotions in B2B too.
Right.
Whether if it's because you're trying to get people to admire you, or you want to impress your colleagues or your managers, or you need to, I don't know, if you have got a lot of people depending on you, if you want to feel better about yourself and your self-esteem, if you want to feel loved, if you want to feel part of a community, whatever it is, there's always an emotion that's steering you towards a decision. Granted, afterwards, of course, I'm going to need all the features and the pricing, and I'm going to start evaluating you in that part. But at this point of the funnel, the beginning of the funnel, where it really matters, you have to use emotion to bridge that gap, connect with them, and say, hey, I might be the solution that you're looking for because I understand you. I know what motivates you. I know what aids you. I know how terrible you're feeling every day with this issue, and I could be the one to solve it for you.
So what you're talking about is Maslow's hierarchy of needs when it comes down to marketing. It's that pain, it's that discomfort to comfort standpoint, and you're meeting them wherever they are in their level of discomfort. But on top of it, you're also having to deliver such a message, or actually having to connect with them almost on a subconscious level with that 3 second window. So you can't hit them with everything at once. You really have to have a level of subtext and lightly connecting with them, understanding where they are in their pain points, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people go through different stages of awareness. That's what I like to call it.
Yeah.
And it's not mine, obviously. So there's 5 different stages of awareness: the unaware, the pain aware, solution aware, product aware, and most aware. And essentially, when you understand where people are in that customer journey, it's easier for you because you know what your next stage should be and where to move them to. Right. But the idea at the end of the day is that what you need to do is to get to know your prospects. And I'm not talking about age, geographical location, or gender. I'm talking about the actual person behind their screen, because that's what they are. It's not ATM machine, it's a person. And every person that comes to your website is trying to solve a problem. And it's your job to solve that problem. If you haven't solved the problem, they're gone. So you don't want to just create a nice landing page. You don't want to create a nice email sequence. You want to create something that's specific to your customer, something that will resonate with them, that they can relate to. And you want to build a relationship with this person. You don't want them to just buy one time. You want a relationship. You want this person to turn into your advocate that's going to be, hurraying and cheering for you and getting more people to come to you. So it all starts with that emotion. And it doesn't just start, it continues throughout the entire customer journey. But that first time when they meet you and they see you, you have to connect with them and you have to show them that you get them, you understand their emotions and where this whole thing starts, and move them through that funnel.
That's one of the most important pivot points that a marketer can experience in their lifetime is understanding that it's not about putting it against unique differentiators of one product or as opposed to another product. That's further down the funnel. They got to be able to connect, and there has to be a discipline of how to understand their clients, consumers, or if you're marketing directly to in your own organization, how to understand your customers that are looking for your services. It's just not about the product. It's not even about the company that's delivering that product. It's really the customers couldn't care less. They've got an issue they're trying to resolve, and that's your levels of awareness, whether or not they even know that they've got a problem to solve. So, can you briefly give us a bit of a description of each of those different stages, starting with the unaware customer?
Yes, of course. So the unaware person is normally someone who is actually just completely unaware they have a problem. This may happen to startup companies. So they're trying to revolutionize something and they're trying to solve a problem that many people may not know they even had. Typically, you'll see this specific stage of awareness addressed in Facebook ads or in search, sometimes on a landing page. But the idea is what you want to do in this stage of awareness is essentially bring of that pain to their awareness and say, hey, you have an issue doing this. So if you're working in a big company, a distributed company all over the world, and you have a problem communicating with people, or you don't, basically what unaware means is that you're not really aware that the reason you have so many issues in the company is because there's a communication problem. So you're not able to bridge the gap. So your goal is to say to someone, hey, do you know that you have an issue because people are in all different time zones, they're all over the world, there's something wrong that needs to be fixed. And that's the only thing you need to do. And that's a great thing about stages of awareness, is that once you know where people are, the only job you need to do is to move them to the next stage. So once someone is unaware, all you have to do is make them aware. Now, once they're aware of the pain and they're walking around thinking, oh, okay, I have some pain, but I have an issue that needs solving, but I don't think there's any solution out there. So I'm just living with this pain. So I have an issue. I've got distributed teams all over the world. Oh, well, it sucks. That's basically you walking around. And then suddenly you get a message. And this could be in an email, or it can be in an ad, or it can be in a landing page saying, do you know that there's solutions out there? There's solutions, there's services, there's products you could be using. There's all sorts of cool things that you could do with your team. And then you get into the solution aware stage. Solution aware people are people that are actually actively reading, researching, and trying to find a solution to their problem. They're just not sure what that would be. Is it in a form of a consultant? Is it a form of just like self-education? Is it a form of, taking a course? Maybe it's purchasing some software. So they're essentially in that discovery phase where they're trying to figure out what the right solution would be for them.
And
Next,
if I could pause, they also have different content consumption layers as well. We don't want to get into it, but these different stages have different types of content that they're going after, right?
Right, of course. So some people, it's more about like reading blog posts and kind of trying to figure out the guide. So maybe I'm reading about like how to do this myself. So like, what kind of meetings can I run with a distributed team? And they're reading about that. Other people are kind of looking on a website and trying to figure out what are the best, what are the best softwares that you can use to solve this problem. So every person's kind of looking for different things, but they're just in the act of trying to figure out what would work best for them. Then you have the product aware, and the product aware is someone who's aware of your product. That means that they have searched all over and they've arrived on your website, your blog, your pricing page, your landing page. They've seen your ad. They're aware of you, but they're not necessarily convinced that you are the right solution for them. And this is actually the first time where you actually start talking about yourself. Everything before that is just about the customer. It's all about their pain, their needs, their solutions, how we can help them, how we can enhance them, make them feel the better version of themselves. Once they get to product aware, what you want to do is move them to the most aware, which most aware people are people that are just ready to convert. You just have to give them the right call to action button. But to move people to the most aware, that's when you start talking about your features and your pricing and the different individual sets that kind of differentiate you from your competitor, but still in the lens of a customer-centric solution, which means these features that we have aren't just cool because, hey, we have AI, or hey, you know, we have thousands of templates. It's about the solution. We have thousands of templates that will reduce the time it takes you to make decisions. We have a product that will help you do it according to channels, so you don't have to search for things, or this is topic based, or this is, so you kind of differentiate yourself and you talk about those different features that you have for your product by making it about them and their value. And then you get to most aware and you convert them, hopefully.
Well, I mean, that's the logical pattern there. And again, this is absolutely where all marketing should be able to meet the consumers where they are in that journey, and also have the discipline to understand where they are. And you speak a lot about the lack of awareness in a company or a firm even knowing what consumers are, how they're expressing their pains. So matching those pain points, the company still has to first discover those pain points, because there's so many times the company just writes about itself, writes about its product, and expects that they're meeting those needs. Well, they're so far off. You can't move enough things on the page to be able to try to convert if you're pointing the wrong direction. So talk to us about the discipline of getting to understand one's customers to a degree that can actually translate into actionable items on content in a structure on their website. Give us an understanding of how they even learn.
Right. So we actually talked about this a lot last time when I was on.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
About the no, it's good, because this is the center of everything. So I'd say rough number, made up statistic, 99% of companies make it about themselves, right? They talk about themselves, their product, their features, how cool they are, they're number one, they're whatever. So it's all about me. Yep. And I challenge you guys, if you're listening to this right now or later in a recording, go to your website, look at the website. How many times does the name of your company appear on the page? How many times do you talk about yourself? And that is really important, because many times this is like the go-to, the number one X for this industry, for this, it's always about us.
Right.
And what you want to do is essentially push that conversation away from you to them. And the only way to do that is to do in-depth customer research. That means actually talking to people. I know, sounds terrible. Oh no. But seriously, if I was in a room now, and I do this every time I get on stage, thousands of marketers, how many of you have done a customer survey in the past 6 months? Maybe 10%, maybe. And this isn't because people are lazy, and it's not because people don't want to run surveys. It's because that the surveys that they've been running are just meaningless. Yep. Because we're asking people like, what did you think of our website? Or, why did you convert today? Not the questions you want to be asking. In order to reach deep and get into essentially what we really want to do is figure out why people are buying from us. Okay. If we can isolate that emotion and that decision, what is the tipping point? Why do they need our solution? And again, when people buy, let's say, insurance, an insurance policy, they're not buying a piece of paper. They're buying peace of mind. When a person is buying a t-shirt, they're not buying a piece of clothing, they're buying self-esteem. Yep. And that's what you're trying to figure out. So what is the reason for this decision? What are they trying to be? What is that better version of themselves? And to get to that, to those deep answers, you need to essentially do customer surveys, customer interviews, you need to do user testing. There's so many things you can do. But, and competitive research. There's awesome things you can do there.
Absolutely.
But easiest thing that you can do right now is put a survey on your website for your visitors and send a survey to your existing clients or customers. And the questions you want to be asking aren't, what do you think of our website? What is our favorite feature? All these questions about yourself. What you want to be asking them is about them. For example, one of my favorite questions that I love to ask people is, before you used this solution, what were you doing? How are you solving this problem? Now, it's not going to be competitors. It's not going to be names of, it's going to be, oh, we solved it by spreadsheets.
Right.
Oh, we solved it with an intern. Oh, we did not solve this issue. We couldn't find any way to solve it. Or I bought a ton of different products and nothing worked because X, Y, and Z. So you're going to get deeper into what people were trying beforehand. And these are your clients you're reaching out to, your customers you're reaching out to. Before they bought from you, they bought from someone else, or they tried different things. When you know what they've tried, you can reflect that back to them on your page. And you can say, we know that you've tried 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they haven't worked, have they? Here's a different approach. So you can reflect the things that you're learning from the survey back to them. Or another question you can ask, if you couldn't use our product anymore tomorrow, what would you miss the most?
That's amazing.
Not what feature.
That content right there is amazing, because you find out so much more that you didn't even anticipate. Keep on going. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, when you say like, okay, you can't use this anymore from tomorrow, what are you going to miss the most? Now, companies are sure. They're going to say, oh, this feature, that feature. I can hands down tell you. I've done this. I've asked this in literally dozens of companies. And it's never the features. It's always like the value that people get. Oh, I'm going to miss the fact that now I have to do hours and hours of work. Or I'm going to miss the fact that I can just communicate so quickly with my family, or whatever.
Right.
These questions are super important. Or, for example, what was happening at that moment, that day, that led you to look for our website, for our solution? What was happening in your life, that moment that led you to it? And it's not about, oh, why did you choose us? This is what was going on in your life, that moment that led you to our website. What happened that you said, oh, can't deal with this anymore. I have to look for a solution. These are all tipping points. These are all very important questions you can ask and get phenomenal answers. And the great thing about it is that it's voice of the customer, which means that once you get all these replies, you don't need to make up a word of copy. All that copy is sitting in a spreadsheet, and you can use that. And later, what you can also do, which is amazing, is you can find out what the biggest objections are. Okay, what were the biggest things that held people back from converting? That people didn't want to, convert to you because they were worried about, I don't know, maybe support. They were worried about doing it by themselves. You find these out, and then you go back to these clients and you say, I remember that you had an issue. You were really worried about the support. Why? And how are you feeling about it now? And that is a testimonial that you use on your website. So when you start to get into your customer's mind, into that prospect's mind, and figure out, okay, these are the things that were challenging them. These are the things that they would miss the most. These are the things they can't live without. This is the biggest value that they see from the product. Now let's reflect that back on the page. So all you have to do is talk to people. That's it. It sounds outrageous. I know.
But it's so simple, but it is also the core of any type of relationship. You just can't talk about yourself. You were mentioning before about site content that has the company name so much and so pervasive in the content. Nobody in the real world, in your personal life, do you want to hang out with that's talking about themselves so much. So you really have to guide how you market in the same vein as how you want to have relationships, and nobody wants to be pushed into something. You want to be asked how you're feeling. You want somebody to empathize with you. And what you're talking about is an exercise to be able to not only find empathy, but also have such channels of information where it's almost like manna from heaven that would have its destination back to the website, back to your social media, back to your ad campaigns, anything and everything that is matching that consumer's pain points and how they express what they're going through in their regular lives. All of a sudden, now you have an entire gallery of information to be able to offer up to anybody who's in any stage of awareness, right?
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, the better you know your consumers, the better you know your prospects, the better experience you can offer. And the better experience you offer, the more likely people are to convert to. And that's the biggest thing. And that's one of the things I always talk to about with my clients or my students, is that when you create a funnel that speaks to people's emotions, when you create a funnel that's about them, their desired outcomes, their value, you are essentially creating a client for life. And you're also just, essentially helping them achieve their goals is helping you achieve your own. And it's all about that. It's just about making it about them. And that's the number one rule in the emotional targeting methodology that I developed, is that it's not about you. You're not the hero of the story. They are. And if you step back and you look at your funnels right now and your website and you ask yourself, is this about me? Am I solving people's problems? Or is it about me? How many times am I using us, we, our logo, our company name? How much are we talking about ourselves and how much are we talking about them?
Right.
And do we really know who the customer is behind the screen for more than just like their behavior?
So
those are the questions you should be asking yourself.
Do you have some sort of evaluation or some sort of checklist that you can provide our audience that, as stark as it possibly could be from an answer standpoint, be able to just go through a self-evaluation to just get an understanding of how far they maybe are off bubble from reaching their consumers?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on our website, we actually had a series of workshops that we did lately with specific step-by-step actions of how to become more customer-centric. And I also taught a lot of different templates, frameworks, and formulas for how to infuse emotion into your existing website. Because to be honest, I mean, yes, I've worked with many clients and I've doubled and tripled their conversions, but not everyone has the budgets to work with consultants and companies like ours.
Sure.
So what you want to be able to do is use existing formulas, and sometimes you don't even have money to redesign, right? I mean, you're not going to have the time, and you have to get a campaign up right now, today, tomorrow. You don't have the time to start redesigning everything, testing everything.
Right.
So we actually created like a ton of different formulas for infusing and inserting emotion into your call to action buttons, your bullet points, your headlines, and visuals and stuff like that. So on the website, you can find a ton of these different resources. We have many different checklists and guides, and we have the list of 50 different cognitive biases and psychological triggers that are affecting people. So there really is quite a lot of information in there.
That is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we certainly want our users to go, our listeners to go check out, well, we implore you to go check out Get Uplift. I do have one question though, is as soon as you get out of the space of moving widgets on a page conversion into emotional connection and emotional content latticing of sorts, creating content in different spaces of your website that meet those awareness needs, right? Objectively, testing those particular messages get a little bit more gray as opposed to a red or blue button over here. They're more powerful, they're more valuable, but how do you set up the new realm of testing emotional connection of awareness, and how do you put together that level of testing methodology into that next stage of conversion optimization? Tracking with me there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the best way to explain it is that when you're testing a blue versus red button, you may get an uplift, but it stops there and it usually declines quite quickly. You don't really learn anything from it. So when you're testing a strategy versus an element, you get a lot more out of it. So for example, if you identify that there's 2 or 3 different emotions that people need to feel on the page when they land on it, you can change your headlines, your copy on the entire page, your visuals, the colors, everything, and you can test that. the original versus the new variation. It may be an entire new redesign, and it may be just a new paragraph on the page, but you're A/B testing two different URLs essentially.
Yeah.
And what you want to see is that there's an interest in that. You want to put heat maps on it. You want to do some user testing. You want to see how people are responding to this new variation of it. And most importantly, when you get the results, you want to dig deeper into identifying, okay, did this work or did it not? Could it do better?
Right.
And then you start optimizing on that within the different elements. Now you can start changing the different call to action buttons or the different headlines that you want to change. And you can always create more and more. But the idea is that many companies, or most companies in the world, don't have the traffic to do A/B testing. We're not all,
Absolutely. Yep.
with millions and millions of traffic coming to our website every day or every month. So you want to create a standard where people come to your website and can get what they're looking for, and they're getting a solution. So you don't have to completely redesign something, but maybe even just adding that copy and content onto your page that makes it about them and their value is going to help you in increasing your conversions and, of course, supplying an experience for your customers that people love.
It's time to slough off the self-centric content and really get to understand your consumers' goals. I was just wondering, as soon as you get into that messaging, you may actually have the right message, but the wrong visual that connects that message. So all of a sudden now you have a couple other things to juggle, because if you're testing the different messages outright and you're screwing it up on delivery. For one way, shape, or form, then a marketer that's not well versed in this execution may actually push away from the table completely, going, all right, well, I just didn't hit it.
Yes.
You got to have patience. You got to let it steep a little bit, let it simmer a little bit, and then if you have a series of 5 different visuals of a couple, if you're selling some sort of widget for or selling some sort of diamond bracelet or something like that, you're changing out different emotional feelings there. You got to be able to first get to what those stages of awareness are, and then just not stick with one graphic, but change that up based on that strategy, correct?
Yeah, right. And you can also test it in other ways. You can try in a Facebook group. You can try reaching out to your existing clients and saying like, hey, here's this new variation we're working on. How do you feel about it? I mean, you can bring in people that before you go live. You can also use 5-second tests to see how people react to it, which is fantastic. There's just many different ways where you can validate it before going live. And you can, if you don't want to use this specific strategy on a landing page that's getting a lot of traffic, maybe you want to do it via an email. Maybe you want to send an email out, see how people respond to that. I mean, there's various different ways you can do it. I mean, testing it on a landing page is probably the best, but it also depends on what you're actually working on, what you're trying to improve, and where in the funnel that is.
I love the idea of testing out new marketing efforts to your existing customer base. They're the loyalists, and they're also going to give you the most honest truth as well. If you actually bring them into the fold of your company's offerings and products and solutions, and say, hey, we trust you, we appreciate your business. How does this connect to where you were in your journey before you met us? What a great thing to do from a leveraging of an asset. You don't even want to consider your consumer as an asset, but in that degree, this is probably the best mirror back to you, whether or not you're in the right space or not. That's a fantastic idea. Talia, we have gone. we always do this. There's so much we can talk about, and we certainly appreciate your invested focus on the customer's journey, because although it's been talked about, and it is sometimes a buzzword, you guys are doing a deep dive and training people on how to actually discover that, because that's the critical thing, is that a lot of marketers don't know where to start in this process. Would you agree with that? Yeah,
definitely. And I think people are a bit timid about doing that, but it's marketing 101. And to be honest, it's business 101, because when you know your prospects' emotions, when you understand your clients on a deeper level,
Yep.
everything in your business is optimized, not just your funnels. Your customer service is optimized, your sales process gets better, even the delivery of your product and the way you build new things and you ship new features, everything that you do. So it really is so important to put that focus and become more customer-centric. And it isn't as hard as it seems.
Yep.
You don't have to have huge budgets, and you don't have to spend a ton of money on tests and on redesigns and whatnot. You just have to reach out to people, talk to them, and ask them the right questions.
Beautiful. Well, we always wrap up our episode asking a couple quick questions of our guests. What really bugs you about your industry right now? Could you be so kind?
I think you've spoken to me enough to know that so much bugs me.
You're not bereft of issues, right?
I'm going to say that the repeating theme of shorten everything, shorten your copy, shorten your pages. No one reads. People read. We're not illiterate.
Yeah.
If you give us a reason, we will read. And that's part of making it about me and not about yourself. So anyone who talks about just less words, use less, whatever, I'm kind of drives me nuts.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with you. And that's the thing, is that it's that first instance that you're talking about, be able to emotionally connect. But as soon as you got the relationship starting, they're going to read pervasively. They're going to dig in there, and you need to have that copy. You need to have that content to be able to not only make your own position known as a company, but you need to be able to connect with them at those additional stages. So yeah, brevity, I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. You need to deliver content when it's appropriate. So conversely, what excites you about your industry?
Well, I do feel like there's a lot more people talking about customer-centric marketing. I feel like there is a lot more customer research being done. I don't know if it's the exact, the right one to be doing, but I feel like there is a surge in people and in businesses that are more interested in doing the right kind of customer research and open to it.
Cool.
So I hope it keeps, rising.
Absolutely. As you have been I'm just thinking 30 years back, you're literally talking about the same thing, from emotionally connecting to a customer base. And you're right, we're seeing it more, but the discipline of how to get there and how to understand and creating that almost that emotional connection content guide. That's a discipline that you are certainly in the space of training and teaching companies on how to do that. And that is the Wild West almost. It's still out there in uncharted lands. And we certainly hope over the next 5 years that companies have that as a regular process in their organization, not only for sales, not only for marketing, but also customer service.
Yeah.
Internalizing everything. Anyway, so lastly, we do want to let our listeners know that Talia has a unique skill. She took a jump.
I do?
Yeah, she took a jump about 7 years ago, literally out of a plane. And we can certainly parallel that with a useful analogy here. If you want to take a jump into emotionally connecting with your audience, do that, because literally Talia has jumped over 1,000 times out of perfectly good airplanes. So
fun.
I'm sure it's enjoyable. It sounds exhilarating. It sounds like a panic attack just waiting to happen. How did you wrestle that fear down so you're now in the competitive space of sky jumping?
I love it. I just love it. I am so scared and petrified of flying in planes. I hate planes, which is the weirdest thing. But I started out, I did one jump for a very irrational, stupid reason. I was trying to impress a guy who married someone else and now has kids with someone else. But I jumped out of a plane for him.
I bet she hasn't.
Because no, she has not. Because emotion. but I just kept doing it. I loved it. I loved every moment, and it is calm and serene and focused, and it's incredible.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I urge everyone to try it. It's incredible.
I've done it twice.
Have you, Jacob?
Yeah. Now I'm feeling like I need to do it again. It's been 18 years.
Yeah, gets the blood pumping. That's for darn sure,
Yeah,
doesn't
it
it?
was a long time ago.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, Talia's competitive, and how do you compete in skydiving?
Well, I have to say that I haven't done it in a very long time because babies.
Yeah,
but when I did, it's essentially depends on the type of skydiving that you're doing and the different points. But you get different points on different sequences that you do in the air, working with a group, working on your own with a camera woman or cameraman. So it's just you have judges on the ground that watch the videos of what you did, and you can now also compete in a wind tunnel. So that's indoor skydiving. That's
That takes all the fun out of it, doesn't it? At least takes
it's still fun.
I'm sure it is.
It's still a ton of fun.
Takes the danger out of
It
it.
takes the danger out of it. That's part of it, isn't it? You know what's not dangerous? Jumping into that 9-day live boot camp that's open for enrollment until December 31st for just $397. We want to get that URL in the show notes. That's getuplift.co/fix my-funnel. We certainly recommend doing that and learning how to actually build your funnels from the ground up. That's a pretty cool thing that literally someone's going to be able to have that product in their own hands after that session, that series of sessions. Pretty cool gig.
Yeah.
Did you like that segue? That was pretty fun.
I'm probably going to pass out after these 9 days. I don't know what I was thinking because it's essentially me helping like a bunch of marketers build a funnel from scratch or optimize one that they already have. And there's so much hands-on stuff that I feel like I'm going to have to take like 2 weeks off after this because I have no idea.
So are you going to be helping?
So many funnels.
So how many are going to be available for, how many seats are available for this boot camp?
So we're keeping it right now till for about 150 people, but we are actually getting so many requests. I don't know if we're going to be able to. I can't say no to people. I'm the worst at it, by the way. I really am. I've got a big team on this, and we're going to be working because we're doing office hours twice a day to support time zones all over. We've got live sessions coming in, and we also have video training sessions that we're sending over every day,
cool.
plus worksheets and cheat sheets. So I'm equipping everyone with like all the things they need. So they just watch the 10-minute training, do the homework, and then jump in and Slack because we're also doing accountability partners. So it's essentially just like it's going to be crazy. I don't know what I was thinking.
You're just wanting to help people. That's what you're wanting to do. Well, we certainly recommend doing that. Again, we'll have it in the show notes, and that's open until December 31st. But I guarantee if it goes well, there'll be another boot camp in 2020, right?
Yeah, probably for $1,000 and like at the end of the year.
All right. Hey, we certainly want our listeners to follow Talia on Twitter, Talia GW. Facebook is a Facebook group, We Optimize. LinkedIn, Talia GW. And Instagram, Talia GW. Talia, we certainly appreciate you coming back on the show, and it's great to be able to talk to you again. We certainly want to champion what you're doing and keep up the good work and getting us marketers over the line to actually start asking the right questions, not moving red buttons and green buttons around. Can you give our digital audience, our digital marketing audience, some final thoughts about how to get started in discovering the customer's goals and optimizing that funnel? Final thought there.
The only thing I'd say is just speak to your customers, do customer research in terms of I'd say surveys, interviews, do some competitor research, not competitor research in terms of like what your competitors' products look like or their pricing. Look at the reviews they're getting, the testimonials that they're getting, what people are saying about them, and try and figure out what are the biggest pains that people are experiencing, what are the biggest advantages that people are mentioning, and how you can leverage those in your business. You don't have to have a ton of clients and a ton of customers in order to get started. Just speak to people and just go a little deeper.
There we go. Well, thanks so much for your time today, Talia, and thanks for joining us this late time of night. We really appreciate it, and hopefully you'll come back around and talk to us again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, take care, and happy Star Wars Day coming up. When is it going to be? December 21st? 21st or 25th? You don't know, Jacob? Oh, come on. All right.
I'm terrible with dates. I have no idea.
Well, take care of yourself. Do you know?
20th.
That's the 20th. That's right. That's right. I'm going the 20th.
You got it wrong.
No, I know. I know when I'm going because we weren't able to get all the seats we wanted to, so we're going on the 21st. So no spoilers, okay? All right. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so please don't forget to like and subscribe to Edge of the Web on YouTube. And if you're really feeling up to it today and like what we're doing, drop us a quick review on iTunes as well. It certainly does help us get some consumer feedback on our side of the coin. Be sure to check out all the must-see videos over at edgeofthewebradio.com, as well as transcripts and show notes and so much more over there. edgeofthewebradio.com. Do not forget to sign up for our newsletter. Failed to mention, text to the number 22828, the word Edge Talking. You can join right there, not while you're driving, by the way, or go over to edgeofthewebradio.com and join the newsletter right there. All right, we'll be talking to you next week as we interview with Robert Rose. Do not be a piece of cyber driftwood.